Hey there, everybody. Boyd here with you, and welcome to our first live show in a long time. Glad to see we've got a nice crowd on hand tonight. I hope you guys are all out there doing well. We're doing pretty well here in San Antonio. Things are gradually getting a little bit better. We've had rotten weather. We haven't been able to go outside much because of that anyway. But we're going to have a little fun in the shop tonight working on some modeling stuff. I've got a 350 scale TOS Enterprise I'm working on, and I got to get some lighting done on the saucer here, so I'm going to take you guys through and show you the work that I'm going to do wiring that up and putting the lights in. Just going to check in here real quick and check in with everybody that's tuned in tonight. Hopefully you guys are seeing the picture and the sound is coming through okay. I'll just kind of look at the comments here and see what you guys are saying. I'm a little bit of a delay here. I'm going to be a little bit rusty, guys. It's been almost a year and a half since we did a live show. Let's see. We've got Sean McClure, Spencer Wolf, Duke, Mark Shue, looks like Chuck with Gearhead Workshops here tonight. Murphy Peoples, nice to see you, Murphy. We have Dennis with Federation Shipyard. Kenny's here, nice to see you, Kenny. Shannon Freeman, I haven't seen you in a while, Shannon. John Pohl. Let's see, Crazy Cougar, Rick Berger, nice to see you, Rick. Hopefully the show doesn't get canceled down here in San Antonio or San Marcos. They still haven't made an announcement on that. And it's not until July, so maybe things will clear up by then. Let's see, we've got Phil Yasagi, Crazy Cougar, Dave G, Mark Buchholz. Quite a few people here tonight. Glad to see that, guys. What are you guys working on tonight? Anybody do anything on their bench while they're tuning in? Interesting to see what you guys are working on. I got a couple of new kits that came in the shop the other day. I talked about it a little bit on the last video. I'm going to start a build series here in the next couple of days on the little 1/25th scale California Kid car. Got both kits in, and the decals finally showed up today. I had a hard time getting those decals. I lost, they pop up on eBay once in a while. They're pretty rare. It's basically the flame decals and the California Kid word that goes on the side of it, but they're really hard to get, so I finally grabbed a pair of those and got them here the other day, so we're going to be starting on that one, and I hope you guys will check it out. Got some other stuff we're going to be getting back to. I've got the Mobius Viper that I started that I've neglected for a little while. We're going to show you that one. I've also got a Mobius TOS Original Series Battlestar Galactica I'm building for a client. And I'm lighting up the landing bays with the sequencing lights and all that, so you guys will see some of that here on the channel too. So we're just kind of going to get right into it, guys. Really glad you guys are here tonight, and this is, like I mentioned, this is going to be just a casual hangout. I'm just going to be working on the bench and talking to you guys. We'll let it run here for an hour or so and see how it goes, and just have some fun. Take our minds off of what's going on out there. And so I'm going to swing over to the bench camera, and hopefully you guys can see this pretty good. I've got this lower saucer here on the 350 scale like I talked about. I've got to do a bunch of wiring on it tonight, get my LED strip put in. I've got the little miniature control board from Tenacontrols here that's got to go in for our blinking navigation light. So I'm going to show you guys a really quick and down and dirty way that I do this. It's pretty efficient. I've been doing, I think this is my 40th one of these that I've built. So I've gotten pretty familiar with it, and I got a pretty good little system worked out as far as getting these done, and in a simple way that's really effective, and it's really stable too. It seems to last and not have any problems. So with that said, guys, I'm going to get right to it here. So I've got my little LED strip here. I've got some wrapping wire to connect it, and I'm going to start by just putting down my basic power coming in here. So I've got to have power kind of going all the way around this. And what I like to do is I like to wire everything here in what I call a parallel circuit. And with the model being put together, we've got power that'll come in from the very bottom, from the base, and it distributes in the inside, the lower secondary hull. Then it comes up through the neck and it goes into the saucer up here. So I don't have that wiring in here yet, but I'm just going to make the assumption that I've got power coming in. So I'm going to start by making a chain all the way around this thing so I can connect power to each component. So what I start off with is I just take a little bit of this wrapping wire and I make this little circle right here, and it gives me a rough idea of the length that I need. Trying not to waste a lot of it. I want to come all the way around this circle and end up right about there from the neck, so basically a little loop. Now I want to leave a little slack in this too, because I'm going to be gluing this down in a few spots, but I want to be able to pick up a little segment and strip it, and then be able to connect another wire to it coming off of a, whether I put a light strip here or here or here, all the way around, so that everything is branching into this whole thing. So I've got to have a plus side, which is this red wire, then I'll come back with another one, which is black. So I think I've got my length pretty well figured out here, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this off, and we're just going to start. Now, what I like to use, you can use a lot of different things. You can use super glue, you can use hot glue, you can use a lot of different things to mount your wire, but I just like to use good old-fashioned CA with a little bit of kicker, and it's rock solid, it holds on there really good, and it dries really fast. That's the main thing. So I'm just going to start right here, kind of put this little part down, with my fingers, and take my CA glue and just make a little dab on here. Don't need a whole ton of that, and just kind of hit it with my kicker. Just wait a second. And that one's good to go, so I'm going to move on to the next one here, kind of get this one settled in. And you guys will be able to see this actually goes pretty fast. I've gotten pretty good at this. But if you use this method, you'll be able to do this exact same thing. Now, I've talked about that quite a few times on the wiring. Everybody has their preference, but you have your parallel and your series. Now, the series is where you've got, like, you can think of it as a length of chain, and every link in that chain has to be rock solid, otherwise the whole chain fails. So when you think about that with electronics, there's some applications where it has to be done that way, but you always have an option, and I prefer the parallel circuit, like I said, because every component, that's every little piece of LED tape that I have here, or every LED or whatever it might be, the power to the board itself, it's all getting its own power from the main source. So if one of these components fails, like say one of these little LED strips, it's highly unlikely. This stuff is really, they've got it figured out. The stuff lasts forever, LEDs and LED strip. But if it ever was to fail, you'd only lose the power or the lighting in that one little area, where if you go through everything and make a chain out of it, if one of those happens to short out or something, it's gonna, like, everything beyond it will be dark too, and that could be catastrophic. So you don't want to, you don't want that to happen. So that's been my rule of thumb since I started doing this. I'm no electronics expert or anything. I'm kind of self-taught on this stuff. So, like I said, everybody has their own preference, but that's just kind of the way I do it. So we're getting down to the last spot here in this first one already. We're going to glue it in place. Alright. So we've got our basic wiring going all the way around this. Now, I've been working on the 72-incher, and I did the exact same thing in that. I've got the LED strip in that, in the saucer, and just, a loop like this going all the way around. It'll be wired the same way. Even though the model is quite a bit bigger scale, the LED strip tape is going to work really good in that too. I'm using warm white lighting. Now, I get all of my LED tape from Jerry at HD Model Works. This happens to be a roll of what they call 0805 double density. What the double density means is that's how many little LEDs, or these are actually SMDs that are surface mounted, how many there are every inch, and these are doubled up what they normally are. I just like them because I can use a short little piece, and they'll illuminate really nice and even, and they won't give any kind of shadowing or anything. They're, and the price is about the same between the two. I get rolls of this stuff, and it works really good. I'm sure you guys are all using it out there, or if you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's for lighting big areas and stuff where you gotta, before we used to have to put, dozens of LEDs, 5 millimeter LEDs in somewhere. Now you can do it with just a little strip. So I'm going to start off here and get the rest of my, don't want to get ahead of myself, I'm going to get my other wiring done here. This is going to be the negative side going on around the same loop that I just made, and we'll get that done, and then we can start actually putting LED tape in. Get to the fun stuff. I'll stop every once in a while and check the comments. I've got it running here. I'm on a bit of a delay, so it might seem kind of weird. Just keep checking every once in a while, make sure the stream is working well too. A lot of people have been having trouble with YouTube and the internet lately. I think they've cut down on the bandwidth a little bit because of all the people using the internet right now. But okay, so I've got this figured out too. I've got the length just about where I want it. Doesn't have to be perfect because we can, we're going to trim it down a little bit when we get done too. So we're going to start off and do the same thing again. Get this one glued down. Oops, she got away from me. So yeah, I hope you guys are using this time at home to get a chance to build a little bit. I've had a chance to do a little bit more of that myself, and getting a lot of chores done around the house that I was putting off. Kind of, it's not all bad, but I'll be sure glad when it gets back to everything going again. I think everybody's starting to go a little stir crazy. Thank goodness I have this hobby to keep me busy. I'm sure a lot of you guys feel the same way. So this is working out pretty good. Just go around here. Now, I'll point out too that I already light blocked this. That's a step that I didn't show you guys. This is I first painted the whole thing inside here with some just the regular cheap flat black stuff. It's I don't buy expensive paint. Don't waste your money on expensive paint for the inside of your models. You don't need to do that. You can just buy the really cheap 99-cent a can stuff at Home Depot or wherever you might be able to pick it up, Lowe's or whatever. And it's just I like the flat black and the flat white because they dry really fast and they cover really well. So I put a couple coats of flat black down on it. When I do that, I just keep holding it up to a bright light and make sure it's all blocked. Then I just lightly dust over it with a coat of white, and that'll help reflect the light around in it a little bit better, and that usually works out pretty good. So we've got our last little section going down here. Get a glue spot there. You can see I'm leaving just a little bit of slack in these wires, and you'll see why in just a second here. Thought about putting my shop music on here. I like to listen to old classic rock music when I'm working, but somebody let me know that on the live streams in particular, they're like really picky about that, and they might shut it down. We don't want that to happen, so we'll have to put that off. I suppose I could play the YouTube free music, but I think everybody's ears would be hurting by the time it was over. They don't have much good stuff on there. It gets you by, but that's about it. All right, so I've got that basic step done. You can see we've got our little wiring in here now. Let me get back to my other screen here. So now what we can start doing is we can start putting together some of these LED strips, and we're going to start laying them in, starting from the back all the way around. I've also got a couple of small little 3mm LEDs in orange that are going to go back here for the impulse engines. So we'll get those, and we'll probably do those right at the end. So let me start getting my LED tape ready, and we'll start putting that in. I've got my solder iron heated up. Let's go ahead and bring that out here. Trying to clear off some space. Move my rocket fuel out of the way here. All right. Get this up in front and center. And our solder. And my helping hands. I'm going to need those. Okay, hopefully I'm keeping everything in the picture. I'll go ahead and move this out of the way really quick so I can get it more centered and just show you a little bit of soldering some LED tape. All right, the first one I'm going to do is for this group of windows right here in the back. So that's going to take like I'll show you this in a second, but this LED tape, you guys are probably familiar with, but I'll just go over it for people who haven't used it before. Everywhere you see these little contact points here, these little brass parts, that's where you can actually cut the strip. If you cut anywhere in between that section of strip won't work because you've actually cut through the circuit. It has to be the complete circuit. This has built-in resistors, so you can connect it right to DC power. It's good from anywhere from like 7.5 volts all the way up to 15 volts DC. And I usually run my models at either 9 or 12 volts. Most of the time 9. So we're right in the middle of where this thing likes to operate, and that's really good because they won't get hot. They'll be really efficient and everything. So for this first section, since this window grouping here is kind of long, I'm going to go with 2 sections. So I'm going to cut it right here, and we're going to solder our wires onto that. Now, some of this LED tape is marked and some of it's not. In this case, this stuff is. It's got a plus and a minus on it, so that helps you. If you don't know for sure, take your power supply. Like I'm going to go ahead and set it in the helping hands here. If you're not sure, all you have to do is take your power supply, turn it on, take the 2 leads and touch them on there until you get it right, and then just remember, and then make sure I like to use red and black wire. Just make sure you know which one you soldered, because you could put it all together and find out you got one section that doesn't work or whatever, and then you might say, what's wrong here, So now this little part right here I'm going to show you takes a little bit of practice, so don't get discouraged if you start working with this stuff and you have a little trouble. I can do it kind of in my sleep now. I've done it so many times. But what you're going to do is you're just going to dab a tiny little bit of solder on these terminals on the end where we cut it. Now I'm going to have to stand up here because I've got to get right close to it. And you want to tin the tip of your iron first and just get it going, and then you're just going to flow it on there. And you don't want to glob a whole ton of solder on there. You just really want one little drop. And the really important thing is, I'll get this closer, is you want to make sure that solder definitely doesn't touch each other when it's on there, or you've got a dead short, and you're it's not going to light up. And if it's hooked to the rest of your system, it'll short everything else out too. So double check that. Okay, I got my red wire. All I did was use my fingers and strip off a tiny little, it's barely like 1/8 of an inch long. I used to use the magnet wire all the time, but for the last probably 3 or 4 years I went to this wrapping wire stuff. I just like it a lot better. It's basically the same size, but it has an actual vinyl coating on it that's easily stripped. That old wire that I was using before, you had to heat it with something to get it has an enamel coating on it. You had to get that off of there. And I found that stuff to be like really stringy and grabby and everything, and I got tired of working with it, and this stuff kind of came around, so I started using it, and I'm really happy with it. It's good strong wire, and it's really easy to work with. So a lot of guys are using this stuff now. Again, you can get that at HDA Model Works too. Okay, so we got our plus on the left. I'm going to go ahead and get that soldered on there. Just have to hit it for a second. It's important that you have a hot solder iron, guys. I'm running mine wide open. It's like it's supposed to be like 850 degrees. Some people think your solder iron getting it too hot is going to do damage, but actually I think it's the opposite. Because if you have a solder iron that's kind of lukewarm or not quite hot enough, and it won't melt the solder, what you're going to wind up doing is you're going to, whatever component you're soldering to, you're going to be laying it on there for a long time and letting that heat just soak in, and you really don't want to do that. You want to just give it a minute second of heat and then get off of it. So I'm going to cut my wires just using my eye, about 8 inches long. Okay, so we got our positive. Now we're going to do the negative, and we're just going to keep repeating this process all the way around this thing until we get her done. So let's get this soldered. And we got that one. So I'll kind of stretch these out and make sure they're reasonably equal. Alright, now what I like to do too here is give these a really good tug, to make sure they're on there good and you don't have a cold solder joint. They're not going to fall off on you, so they're on there real good. So we're ready to put this one in, and we'll go ahead and peel our backing off and get it put in the saucer, our first one. Okay, we'll move this out of the way and go back to the saucer. And we're going to lay this one right here, just in front of this group of windows here. About like that. You guys can see that. Yeah, these cameras never like that white stuff. It just blots it right out. But you can see about how far I am away from that. Okay, so now, most people say, okay, that's good enough. But me, I don't trust the backing on this tape. I think it seems to stick on there pretty good, and it shouldn't be a problem if you've got nice clean paint and all that, but I never trust it. So what I like to do is I just go in here, and on the very end, on one side, okay, my CA bottle like usual clogged up on me. Let me get that cleared out. You guys are probably familiar with that too. It happens all the time. Alright, so we'll dab a little bit here. And that's really clogged. Let me find something to get in there. Come on, baby. Give me some love. There we go. Now it's coming out of there way too much, like usual. So I dabbed a little bit more on the end, and then I dabbed a little bit in the middle, just kind of came across it, and then I completely covered the part here at the rear where I did my solder work, and extended it out just a little bit so it actually has got the wires glued down too, so if they happen to get pulled or yanked or anything, they're not going to get ripped right out of the, right off of the strip there. So we've got that, and a little hit with that, and we're set. That'll be cured. Now you can see what we can do now is we can just reach right up here and connect these wires into this, and so as we go all the way around here, they're all going to be tied right in, and they're all going to have their own individual power. So we've got this little strip, this little part right here next. Now normally for a long time what I was doing is I was putting those on the top of the saucer facing straight down, so they would hit it, but it's an extra set of wires that when I went to shut the lid that I had to worry about connecting and everything, so I do it a little bit different now, and I'll show you what I'm doing. It's real simple. If I find my scissors, I'll cut off another strip of LED. Now this time we're going to be using a really short one, just a single section, that has, it's got three little SMDs on it, and that's going to light up these three little round ports that face on the bottom of the saucer. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to stand this LED tape on its side, so it casts light right onto that, and then that's all connected to this lower part here, and we don't have to worry about it later on and hooking it up a different way and everything. So let's get this guy back over here and get him soldered up. Okay, we got our positive and minus, and just a lot of repetition. It's going to get kind of boring, guys, but I think people that haven't done this before are probably interested in it, so the rest of you guys just have to bear with it here. So we got that. Now we're going to go ahead and get some more wire on there. Okay, that one's good. I'll go about the same length here and cut that. Now we'll do our black. So I hope you guys are chatting about what you're working on and what's going on out in the modeling world. As I mentioned in that video, I don't get a lot of time to, not nearly as much as I used to kind of roam around and see what's going on, with all the new model kits. I'm always hearing about it from somebody else, usually a couple weeks after everybody else knows about it, but that's okay. It sounds like there's some new kits still coming out and everything, so it's not all that bad. The one Star Trek kit I'm kind of excited about is I'm actually excited about that. I guess everybody's calling it the Disco Prize, the Discovery Enterprise, the larger version that they're going to release of that kit. And then I guess I heard round 2 is going to do a Galileo, but without an interior, which is, I don't know what the idea was there, but I guess you'll buy the interior later. But yeah, so there's some cool stuff coming up. So I'd be interested in doing one of those Discovery Enterprises. I really like the design on that. And I especially like the bridge, when they showed the interior of the bridge. That looked really cool. It was like the coolest modern interpretation of the TOS Enterprise that I've seen, the original series, where it gave a really nice kind of tribute to that. I like the red trim and the way it was lighted and everything. It looked really cool. I was kind of hoping that they would do a series about that with Captain Pike. So maybe they still will. I know it was really popular, that little run they had on the Discovery show when they were on there. I think that's when they got their best ratings. But that should be pretty cool if they release that kit. The Galileo will be nice because we'll finally have a nice Galileo that's a regular styrene kit. I did the Randy Cooper one, and that's a nice kit, but it's a lot of work to get that kit to look good. It's it's resin, and it's got a lot of imperfections when you first get it. I'm going to go ahead and trim these back a little bit so we don't have too much wiring going all over the place. You can be a little bit more careful, and save yourself some wire. Just be a little bit more precise, but okay, so we're going around the corner here. Now that's all in place. If you guys can see that, I just stood it on its side and put a bead in the front and the back of it with CA glue, and it's never going anywhere. So we're going to keep moving around here. I got another window section to do. So we'll grab some more LED tape. Anybody else heard of any other new and exciting kits that are coming out? I think, I know there's always lots of car kits and everything, but not sure about anything sci-fi. The one kit that's out that I haven't got yet that I would really like to get is the, I think it's, yeah, the large-scale Mobius pod from 2001: A Space Odyssey. That was an awesome kit. I've seen a few builds of that people did an outstanding job on those, and you know, the interior, that is so cool looking. There's a Paragraphics photo etch set for it. I heard that later on that kit's going to be re-released with a Dave Poole figure, you know, the actual pilot for the thing, so that would be great. Might be worth waiting on that one. I wasn't too sure what was going to happen with all that 2001 stuff with Mobius being sold to a new company, whether they were going to keep that 2001 licensing or not, but apparently they did, so that's great. Okay, another wire going on. Okay, get that one cut. I'm going to go a little shorter this time, I think. Alright, get some black. Yeah, a lot of people have asked about the 1/200 scale Titanic kit that I got too, and I'm going to be starting on that one pretty soon. There's an aftermarket part set that you had to order through Trumpeter. It's kind of a strange way they had that set up. You had to kind of order it through their Facebook page, and it was coming from China, so you know it obviously got delayed. But I got word, I guess 3 or 4 days ago, that it's been shipped. So that's the reason I really haven't done anything. I could have probably started doing some preliminary work because I'm going to be drilling out all those portholes. Yay. That's going to be a lot of fun, but it'll be worth it. It'll be really nice. But yeah, so there's wood decking, there's brass main masts, there's parts, you know, I think there's like 6 or 8 more sheets of photo etch. I'm kind of curious to see what's going to be on that photo etch because, man, there's already a ton of photo etch with the kit. I don't know what else is going to be there. Maybe the little benches on the decks and maybe some more detailed railings and stuff is what they're going to include. But there's going to be a lot of brass to go on that model. And once I get all that, then I can actually start doing, you know, some major work on it. I'm really excited about it. I got a place already in the display room to put it, which I didn't think I would be able to do, but by a miracle, I was able to go in there and kind of rearrange everything and build me some more model building space. That's one of the big reasons why I haven't been doing a lot, not nearly as much as I started out doing on my channel, building models. You know, I was putting out 2 or 3 videos a week building models when I first started going, but I just started running out of room. And, you know, I'm staying busy doing a lot of client work, but my own stuff had to kind of slow down. So I went in there and, you know, formed a plan. I think I've got myself set up where I can build good and solid for another year, and then I'll be right back in the same boat. That's one of the things I don't see talked about too much in the modeling community is, like, what are guys doing about that? I mean, how many people out there have the same problem where you know, you're running out of space? What do? Do you put them in storage, or do you sell some of them, or, you know, what are you guys doing? I'd be curious to hear about that. One of the things I've known is that you've putting stuff in storage, especially models, they tend to come out not as good as they went in over time for some reason. Even though they never get touched, they come out broken. But I've got a big closet in there. I might move some of those into the closet and all that are, you know, the older models I've had. So we'll see. But I'm really glad to be able to start building again for a little while. Okay, so we've got... we're working our way around here. We got this one in. I'll just kind of back up and show you the progress here. So now we've got this little 3-window grouping right in the bow of the ship, and that, of course, is not as big as the rest, so we're going to go with another one of our little small single-only sections of strip. Get that ready to go. Yeah, okay. Get this up in here. Oh, that one's backwards. Let's turn it around to keep them all the same. I'm going to step off just for a second, guys, and turn my AC on. The temperature also went up about 10 degrees. Okay, so we're ready to solder this one. Yeah, so I've got a whole bunch of models on the shelf. I think Rick is here tonight. Thanks to Rick, I think it was like almost 2 years ago, wasn't it, Rick? That Rick got a hold of one of my Grail kits for me, that B36. So I'm going to build that baby here on the channel real soon. I've been holding the reins back on that one. I'm really excited about building that kit. It's a kit that I wanted since I was a kid, just because of the sheer size of it. And I remember sitting down one evening with my dad watching the original Jimmy Stewart movie called Strategic Air Command, where they had some spectacular air footage of that B-36 flying around. There's another really cool jet that he flies at the end. It was some kind of a Boeing. Some of you guys that are plane experts might know what I'm talking about. It was a really sleek-looking jet. The Air Force wound up not using that jet very long because apparently it had some problems or it had limitations, but it sure looked cool in the movie. But when I saw that B-36 flying over, I was just like, wow, what is that? And I think for a long time, that particular kit, that monogram B-36, held the record for the largest plastic model kit that was ever produced, especially of an airplane. That thing was gigantic. I mean, it's way bigger than the monogram B-52 that a lot of you guys probably have built, or even the B-29. And it just looks cool. You know, it's not the prettiest plane. It's kind of awkward looking, you know, real long with a big tail, but you know, those cool backwards facing propellers and then the jet engine assist for takeoff and everything. That was just a really out of this world setup. That thing must have been, you know, burned a ton of fuel whenever they flew it. But so yeah, we're going to build that one up. I've got somebody working on some decals for me to use the markings that Jimmy Stewart had on the plane in the movie. It had a really cool Strategic Air Command logo on the front, you know, with I think it was kind of the fist thing with the lightning or whatever it was. Really cool looking logo, but I want to get those specific numbers and everything and the other markings. So I've got somebody working on that, and you guys will get to see it. I was really surprised though that the decals in the kit were in really good shape. Rick got me a awesome kit, so thanks again for that, Rick. I really appreciate that, and definitely want to show that one getting built, and that'll probably get mounted on the wall, so I don't have to worry about shelves. That worked out really good, mounting those other big bombers that I built on the wall in my display room. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and tack these down here while I'm at it. Next time I use some of this stuff, or I need to buy some more, I've decided I'm going to buy the big bottle with the little pump spray bottle, so I can just refill it. I think that'll be a lot more efficient, and I won't waste as much because I can just, you know, do the pump action. That's probably what a lot of you guys are already using. I'm probably wondering why I'm wasting so much stuff, but it's an old habit. Cut these off a little short. Alright, so we're working our way around pretty good here. We got another window group, so we got to make another long section. But we're getting there. Then we can get the control board put in and see how everything looks. Be able to test it. Always got to test it. Okay. Pretty good progress. We're about a half hour in here. Not quite a half hour. Making really good progress. So in an evening, you can basically get this done. Spend a couple hours. There's a few more. I'll explain to you what I'm going to do for the... Oh, I'm getting too much solder on this one. This one's not wanting to take solder for some reason. I'm going to go ahead and use another piece. Something weird about that one. Don't trust it. Whenever I'm building something for somebody else, I really don't... I try to build everything as good as I can, but when I'm working on something for somebody else, I really don't take any chances. So I'll just use another piece. I've got plenty of it. I'll save that one for something else. I can maybe shorten it and use it. Let's try this again. And like I said, get yourself like a little, something to put your hand on or something, and so you can be reasonably steady when you're doing this, and it'll help you a whole lot. I'm shaky enough as it is from drinking my rocket juice, my Coca-Cola. Okay, so we got that. Let's go back to our red. Okay. Oh, scissors are hiding on me again. You guys can probably see them, but I can't. What do I do with them? There they are. Okay. There we go. Get this one on there. So I hope you guys that are here have been tuning in and watching Kenny Conklin's live show that he does twice a week. I've been trying to support Kenny doing that as much as I possibly can, trying to pass the word around. Kenny deserves a lot bigger audience. He's got a really good show that he does every week. He goes into the, he puts all the time and effort. Believe me, I know how much time and effort it takes. He sits down with you every week and gives you some modeling news, talks about what's going on in all the different modeling communities, shares what's going on, shares a lot of people's work, kind of like what I used to do, and I really appreciate that he's out there still doing that. Like I said, the reasons I gave for not being able to do it anymore was it just consumes a tremendous amount of time, so I hope you guys are supporting Kenny on that, and Kenny's always been a rock solid member of the modeling community. He's done nothing but good things and helping out a lot of people, so hats off to Kenny. I hope the sky's the limit for the stuff that he's doing. So, but again, I'll continue doing these, and just a little, it's more like the old Hangouts used to be, I guess, only without all the people on the camera, but, the part that I really missed the most from the old show was this actual chat session, was, getting a chance to get together with everybody a week. I'm pretty much by myself. I get out some, but I've got a few friends around town, but I'm pretty much in my shop all the time working, and so I don't get a lot of social activity, and so it's great to engage with the community, find out what's going on. Really, we always had a really great bunch of people. We never had any problems. People aren't, ill-mannered or whatever, or condemning other people's work and stuff like that. Everybody's always been really supportive, and that's what the community should be, and that's what encourages more people to get into this hobby. Because when you think about that, the more people we have in it, the better it is for everybody. And I'd like to see more young people getting into it. Now, when I go over to my local hobby store, there are younger people in there, but they're kind of into the Gundam stuff. Now, the hobby store I go to, called Hill Country Hobby here in San Antonio, I haven't been there in a while, but they have a good selection of the Gundam stuff. The guy kind of knows his business. He's got a great selection of kits too. I was really surprised when I went there, because he's just a small mom and pop store. But he had a lot of stuff, a lot of the big kits. I think at the time when I walked in, he had just gotten the new 350 scale Klingon Katinga. He had a 350 scale refit. He had a TOS. I think he had that big Proteus kit from Mobius. And you just don't see that anymore in these little mom and pop hobby shops. And I was talking to him. He's a retired guy, and he says he's doing okay. He says he's holding his own. Knows he's not going to get rich. He's got a little table set up there where he kind of works on his own stuff while he's there, and he just kind of works it by himself. He's got like and the store's not very big, so he doesn't have a lot of overhead, and he's making it. So I'm really glad to see that. He's kind of figured out a nice little balance between, what the old school people want and what the younger people are going for. And he's got he also had a nice little he had a shelf in the back where he was actually selling kits on consignment for people. So like if you had an old kit you were trying to get rid of, he'll sell it for you. And there was some really good stuff in there that I actually wanted to grab, but I figured I better not, because I got too much stuff to build already. But he had some nice old vintage kits sitting in there. So yeah, I know people are mentioning all the time that around the country, it's kind of, their hobby shops are going away, especially with all this stuff going on now. I imagine it's even tougher, but hopefully they'll hold on, the ones that can, and they won't all completely go away. My local Hobby Lobby, I would say over the last year or two, maybe 2 years, they've actually stepped up their modeling stuff. They've increased the number of models they have on the shelves, and I noticed, especially in the supplies department, they've really come up in that area a lot. They're carrying on, you know, a lot of stuff they didn't used to carry. I can get pretty much all the basics I need there. And, you know, anything expensive, I use their 40% off, and that comes out to a pretty good deal. I recently bought a Wada Neo airbrush there, and I think it was listed for like $70, and then I used the 40% off, and I got it for like a little over 35 or whatever. So that's a heck of a deal. Because I murder airbrushes here. I'm working all the time, and I just literally wear them out. Try to take good care of them, and it doesn't matter. They just, you know, they're still serviceable, but if you want them to be perfect, you can definitely tell when they start getting old. Okay, so we've worked our way all the way around. I've got one little spot to do here, guys. Just that little same thing I did on the other side. I've got to make a little one for that you know, that stands up. And we'll go ahead and get that one done, and then we're done with the LED strip. That's great. Sure, I'm turning the right way here. Okay, let's get it nice and close again. Come on. Get on there. There we go. Got it. All right. Some of you guys may have seen my my little Christine video I put out the other day of some work I did on my old car. I've got a couple more videos like that I'm going to put out over time. I know a lot of people don't like seeing that on the modeling channel, but a lot of the guys that are on the channel are car guys, so I think they appreciated it. That was a lot of fun working on that car. I've got a lot of questions about it, like why did I sell it and everything, but you got to realize at the time I was doing that all the time. That's what I did before I was into this hobby. And so whenever I'd finish a car, I would enjoy it for a few years, and then I would move on to the next thing. I think the car that I restored after that one was I had a 64 Dodge Max Wedge that I built a really nice 440, and then I decided to start doing a little bit of racing. And I think before Christine, I restored a 69 Camaro, a couple other cars. So I've got some pictures of that stuff. A little bit later on, I'll show some of that too. But I basically built them all right here in this garage, the same way that you saw that Christine video. I learned to do this stuff from one of my dad's friends and a little bit from my grandpa. And I just was a car nut ever since I could remember. And this hobby of building models actually was a good... when I decided to get out of the cars, it was mainly because I started getting kind of old for it. You know, I always wind up doing my own work. I never had anybody, you know, I'd go over to my friend's house and help them put in an engine, but when I needed them to come over here to help me put in an engine, they would never seem to be available. So I wound up putting engines, transmissions in, you know, dozens of them. And, you know, you start to get a little bit too old to be crawling around underneath of those old cars and everything. And they take up, you know, a lot of space. Took up my whole garage, and so I quit doing that, and it was, you know, starting to get really expensive too. Nowadays it's like outrageously expensive. You know, in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was still, you could still find an old car for fairly reasonable that wasn't a complete basket case, and you could do your, you know, you could do a nice car if you know, on a budget, if you did a lot of the work yourself. That's just about impossible anymore with the advent of the internet and everything. Even people that have an old farm out in the country, they got some old cars sitting out there. Back in the day, you could drive up, and half the time they'd pay you to tow it away. But not anymore. Their grandson's on the internet, and he's told them that car is worth $20,000, you know, and they all know it now. So it's a drastic difference. So it got, you know, it started getting really expensive. My wife and I used to do the show car circuit and all that, and that got old too after a while. So I decided to give it up, and thank goodness I found, you know, I built models when I was a kid, and thank goodness, you know, I went back to it because it really was the only thing I could find that kind of filled that same kind of, you know, gave me the same kind of feeling, a sense of accomplishment or whatever when you finish something, you know, working with your hands and being creative and all that, kind of, you know, making your dreams come true, working on some of your favorite stuff from movies and all that. So yeah, it was really a good thing that I was able to get back to that. And you know, modeling is really like in its golden age right now too. I mean, it's just incredible compared to how it was when we were kids. I mean, you know, you can literally find, I know our good friend Omar's on here tonight, and he's gotten heavily into 3D printing, and with the advent of that now, I predict in the next few years just about everybody's going to be 3D printing. It'll be almost like having a VCR was back in the day, kind of the primitive version of the Star Trek replicator. It'll be a common household item, but I mean, you'll be able to download files, you know, from the major model companies. They'll start producing files as kits instead of actual kits, and you'll be able to order a file and print up your favorite, and it'll literally be unlimited as far as the subjects. It's already almost that way now. I mean, you can think, I've thought of some really obscure stuff, you know, that probably hardly anybody liked or watched. Start doing a search for it, and sure enough, there's a garage kit or a resin kit out there of that exact thing. And I mean, it wasn't like that at all back in the 70s when I was a kid doing it. You know, you had a very limited selection, and the quality of the kits wasn't always the best. That's way changed. Okay, guys, so we're all the way around on our saucer now. You can see we got all these LEDs in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start tapping these into the main power source here. So I've got to use my lighter to do that. I got to grab that. Where did I put it? Okay. So we're going to just kind of move stuff out of the way. Now these here that are on the end, I can just go ahead and connect those up direct. These I don't, this particular wiring, I don't worry about putting any heat shrink or anything on it because I'm going to glue it down. It's never going to touch anything. It's, you know, no worry about it getting shorted out or anything like that. So I'm just stripping these wires again. That's why I like this wrapping wire with my fingernails. I can just strip that stuff right off there, no problem. So we'll start off here with this one. I'm going to leave that little bit of slack in there like that with those wires sticking up, and I'll show you why here in just a little bit. Okay, and before I go any further, you guys might be wondering, okay, Boyd, how are you going to light this part here in the middle, right? Well, what I do on that, let me grab the top saucer and I'll show you really quick. It happens to work out really well. You can see I've got the bridge on here already. I'm starting to sand this. I'm doing my putty around here and everything. But what I do is, even if I'm, now this particular model, the customer doesn't want the bridge, so it's just going to have the lighted dome on the top. But you can see I've got the window glass in there and everything. You see these four little kind of pads that are right here? What I do is I save that cardboard backing that comes like in your photo etch sets and everything, and I cut out a little square, you know, that fits just like kind of like that, just a little bit past those pads. And I take 2 strips of the LED tape and I put that on the top side, and then when I glue it down, that's what's going to light up this whole thing up here, including the dome and all these windows. It'll also light up these 2 little red guys right here because they don't blink or anything. They're just, you know, stationary. And if the bridge is in there, you know, and you've done all your little painting and detailing and everything, and you got, you know, where light can come through it for the, you've used the photo etch parts and all that. I found that works really, really good for that too. Now I don't even use the clear lighting kit for this. I just use the regular plastic parts that come with the kit. The light goes through those just fine. And in fact, I think it looks a little bit better because it tones down the light so it's not blindingly bright, and the screens don't look all washed out and everything. You know, there's little decals, and so doing it that way, that light will get up in there and light up the bridge too really good. It gives it just the right amount of lighting where it's not overly, you know, blown out or whatever. And so with that stuck down on there, then I make a little square of LED strip right around here on the top side of it, and that faces downward and lights up this whole thing right here. And so it's just an extra set of wires. I tie all the wires together and they come out over here, and then when I get ready to put the lid down, I've got one little, you know, I've got to have the lid up like this. I solder onto my connection, and then I can drop the thing down, and it's sealed, and all the lighting is ready to go. You got the separate little spot there, you know, you got the little cone that goes in here, and a single 5mm white LED goes in that to light the lower sensor dome. Another thing that I do, I guess I'll just talk about it. all these clear windows right here, I take my airbrush with some basic white and I just really lightly air over those things from the inside. That's how I diffuse them. You could probably take sandpaper or steel wool and do the same thing, but I just lightly dust over that so that I don't get any of that twinkly action. You know, like you'll see the windows will look nice and even, and they won't have any of that when you move it around where you see the individual LEDs twinkling in there. You know, and I go around and do the same thing. All that glass that I'm going to put in here, I dust over all that. These windows down here, the inside of the the clear part for the dome on the bottom. The only windows I don't put in are these right here. I don't use these on the edge right there because they had a problem with the kit where they stick up a little bit. It's easy to fix. You can go and sand them down, you know. Otherwise, the saucer doesn't want to close all the way, I found out. So I just put the, I build everything else up, and then I put the, crystal clear in there, or just regular Elmer's glue even works really good, or the, canopy glue. And you get a nice diffused effect with that, and it works really good. And it saves me some masks because I just leave those open. I do all my putty work, paint the whole thing, and then when I'm done, I just come back and fill them in and just use masks on the other part. I try to do that wherever I can to save on masks, So, all right, let's start connecting these up now. I'm going to go with this one right here. You can see I can lift these wires up a little bit. I got to get my tweezers here to help me with that. Okay, I glued those down somehow. Wow, how'd I do that? Clean those up a little bit here. You know that crazy glue, it gets everywhere. That's why they call it crazy glue. Okay, get this cleaned up a little bit. Alright, gonna lift these up. And I'm just going to take my lighter and get this one, throw a little heat on her, and then I can spread that wire a little, or spread that insulation just a little bit. Give me a little bare spot, and I'll offset those so they're not like right next to each other, so they're not going to touch. And I'll do the same thing on both of these. All right, I made that one too far away. I can see that already. Well, we'll get the. I think both of them are going to be too far away. That's okay. I'll do it in another spot. Made that one a little bit too short. Okay. Now I'll just get this one stripped. Probably one of those little, what do you call it? Fireplace lighters. Those little big fireplace lighters would work pretty good for this. I don't like to do it with a solder iron because, that plastic gets all over the tip and starts to get pretty nasty, so I don't like using that for it. Okay, I'm going to take my tweezers and just take this wire and start wrapping it around it. Just like that. 4 or 5 wraps. And then just kind of blend in the rest of it. And what I always do, guys, good rule of thumb, you might want to do it different, but it's just a suggestion here. I always, every time I make a connection, I solder it so I don't go back and forget. Because if I do that, by the time I'm done with this, I'm going to have, several connections on there. And if I miss one, yeah, it's on there. But if it gets loose or something over time, it's going to cause like an intermittent problem. It'll be blinking or flickering or something, and we definitely don't want that to happen. So, okay, let's go for this red one. Get that one out of the way. Once this is all done, I will go back and tack this wiring down with a little bit more glue, get rid of all the slack and everything and get it all nice and pretty. But I think you'll agree when you see this at the end, it's about as clean as you can get. I mean, yeah, you can be super anal and make everything, totally perfect and all that, but I mean, we're not using excess wire. We're not using, this is just a really simple, easy way to do this, and we're getting it done really fast too. So that's a good thing. Now these, I guess, are they going to be long enough? Yeah, I'll make this work. I'm going to go ahead and connect these on here too while I'm thinking about it. And I'll go ahead and solder those. I was going to wait on that, but we'll solder them now. Beauty of a good hot solder iron. Just a quick touch and that baby's done. Okay. So that's done. That's done. Let's move on to this next one here. Got a little slack right here. This time I'll double check, not be a dummy. Okay, we got enough space there. My lighter's getting ready to croak on me here too, guys. Hopefully she's got enough to get us home. It's going to be close. I think I've got a backup, hopefully. Okay, get these stripped. So yeah, every one of these TOS Enterprises I do exactly the same now. I've got like a, you know, a real routine that I follow on these. I've gotten down to where I can build one in like 3 to 4 weeks. And that's not too bad, you know, and that's not killing myself. That's, you know, working at a nice steady pace. All depends too. Some people want all the extra detail like the shuttle bay and all that and the bridge. That takes a little bit more time, but basic build anymore I can get done in about 3 or 4 weeks. Tweezers on. Okay, get these two soldered up for us real quick. And moving on. Let's go over to this one. Trim these down just a tad. I'm going to go to my backup lighter and hope it works. Yeah, it seems to be pretty good. Offset it a little bit this time. So when I finish making this little ring right here, I'll stop and we'll do a test run on that. I'll light that and make sure everything in that basic circuit's going to work. One of the practices that I always do too is whenever I finish anything, I will, once I get the board, all this stuff done on the lower saucer, I'll hook this up to my power supply just before I go to bed, and I'll let it run overnight. You know, it's not sucking a lot of juice or anything. It's barely even an amp. And then I'll come back and look at everything in the morning. If anything's going to fail, it'll fail in that amount of time. If it's good after that, a lot of people do that. They call it like a burn-in. If it makes it through, then it's going to last forever. If you got a bad component, you know, faulty LEDs or something, faulty board, it's pretty much going to show up right then in the first few hours. So once you close up the saucer and close up the model and do all your putty work and all that good stuff, it better be right. Okay. All right, we're coming around the bend here. Go ahead and throw that away. She's a goner. We must have a front coming in or something. It's getting really warm. I mean, it's literally, I can feel the temperature rising, even after kicking on the AC. That might mean we're going to get a storm. Hope not. I remember one of the old model shop shows we were doing here. We got hit with a storm right in the middle of it, and It turned out the next day that a tornado touched down like 6 blocks away. And it felt like it here too. We were in here. It was pretty bad. The old garage door was rattling like a freight train coming down the track, and we could hear sounds of wood cracking outside. Thank God it wasn't any of my trees. It was a neighbor's tree that, well, I feel sorry for him. I don't, but I'm glad it wasn't mine, because I got a huge oak tree in the front and it would have landed right on top of my wife's car. That would not have been good. But we've survived. It's just one of the many crazy things that happened while we were doing that show live. Alright, we're back around here to the end. On these, I'm going to go ahead and butt them together. Now, I'm going to leave these be because, as I mentioned, the power from the rest of the model is going to come up through the neck, and that's where it's going to tie in, is right here by the neck. So they'll connect to these wires, and then that in turn powers everything up here. Okay. Yeah, we're doing real good here, guys. Real good. Yeah, going back to Christine again, some of you guys were asking me, what happened to the car. Well, we wound up selling it, and originally it went to a fella in Nebraska, and he had the car for a couple years, and then he sold it, and now, believe it or not, the car's in Australia. So she's an Aussie now, and I was actually able to find some pictures of it online. Still looks great, still driving around, but it looks weird with Aussie plates on it. But one of my other cars that I built, my Dodge, I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but a couple years back I did a tribute build to that car, a little white 64 Dodge, a super stalker that I had, and built a little Johan 64 Dodge, kind of made it look like my car. Well, that car got sold to a guy in Germany, and that car's still running around. And on that video I showed a little clip at the end of him drag racing the car, and I used to drag race it, and the car did really well. And he's over there winning races with it. He said, man, he's beating all the Chargers and everything over there. And for some reason, German guys are really into Mopars. Like old muscle car Mopars are huge in Germany, and they rent on an old airport on weekends and drag race out there. So yeah, that's pretty cool. There's 2 of my cars that are like on another continent, and that's pretty neat. And hopefully they live on for a long time. It's kind of nice to know you worked on something that'll be around maybe after you're gone. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so we've got all of our wiring done here. I'm going to go ahead and tack some of these down that are kind of close to each other, so we don't have to worry about it. And then we'll throw some juice to her and see what happens. Either we get some lights, or we might get a little mini mushroom cloud. Okay. You see why I like using that CA. It's almost instant. Quite a bit quicker than even using hot glue. And you haven't modeled until you've grabbed the business end of a hot glue gun. Then you know you're a veteran once you do that. Alright. That's good. Go ahead and get these knocked down. So far so good, everybody. The ultimate test is when we connect it to power. Let's go back over here. Yeah, so these will never move, they'll never go anywhere. And once everything's all in there and working, I'll, like I said, I'll glue down everything. I'll tidy it all up, clean it all up. And get ready, slack, and we won't get anything pinched or anything when we close up the saucer. Alright, so we've got it all pretty much to the point where it looks to me like nothing's going to short. let's go ahead and fire up the old super power supply 12,000 here and see what happens. Okay, I'm just giving it a quick eyeball here, getting my googles on it, running it at 9 volts. Looks like we're in business, guys. All of our lights are on, everything's working, don't see any flickering, anything weird. So as I said, I'll let this burn in overnight once I finish tonight, and if it's all good in the morning, I'll call it a deal. We'll finish up on the work on the top saucer probably tomorrow, and then get ready to seal this whole thing up. The way I do these now is I completely build this entire saucer. I've got my wires coming out of the neck. I'll bring some power wires down, just let them hang. There'll be one wire that comes off the board that comes through the neck that drops down to the rear part of the ship, and that runs those little blinkies at the back. I guess they're called the ion pods. The other wire is up in here that runs the nav lights. So this will be like a whole separate unit. I'll put this whole thing together. I'll do all my putty work on it. I'll paint it. It'll be, all the decals, everything will be done on it. And then I'll cover it with some plastic, and when I get the rest of the model built, that'll be, right on top of the secondary hull, pull the wires through and connect to the rest of it, and we're good to go. So I've got to go back and put the glass in it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint it. That way I don't have to use masks for any of this. So that's going to work out really good. Okay, our power is good. So now it's time to put the control board in. We've got our little Tenacontrols board here. I've got to make a pit stop, you guys, so I'm going to take a really quick break. I'm going to get out. I am actually going to use the hot glue gun for this, because you don't want to CA glue down a control board. That CA can attack those boards, so don't ever glue down a control board with CA glue. I'll use regular hot glue for that. So I'll get the hot glue gun plugged in. We'll let that warm up, and by the time I come back, it should be ready to go. I'll see you guys in just a couple minutes. Okay, guys, I'm back with you again, and just gonna hop over to the chat here for a little bit before we get back. I still gotta let my heat gun warm up a little bit here, or my glue gun. Just see what you guys are talking about tonight. See if... Oh man, we had 180 people in here. Wow, that's awesome, guys. I guess everybody's bored tonight. Thanks for showing up, everybody. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Yeah, I see you guys are talking about Don from Don's Light and Magic passing away. That was really too bad. He was a really good guy to the community. I used to use a lot of his stuff. Hopefully somebody's going to be able to continue. I don't know what happened to the molds he was using, because a lot of that stuff was kind of one of a kind. It was, you know, for some of the smaller kits and everything. So hopefully somebody's going to be able to continue doing that. Spencer says we were over 200. Great. Yeah, glad to hear that. My glue gun's just about there, guys. We'll get back to it in just a second. Everything's looking really good here. I'm going to turn off my solder iron for now and get that out of the way. I've still got a wire, and I see one thing I forgot too. I forgot to put the little orange guys in there for the impulse engines. We'll do that too. Probably go for about another half hour, an hour here, guys, and then we'll call it a wrap. But I'm really enjoying this. It's just like having you guys here in the shop with me, and it's good to see you guys again. Hey, Aussie Trekkie's here. Nice to see you, buddy. Sorry I couldn't hook up with you when you came. Scott was actually here in Texas, I think, last year. I think he was here for, I don't know what he was here for. He came to the States, and I think he went all the way across the country. That was really cool, but he was up in Dallas, and I'm down here in San Antonio, and that's like it's a little over 500 miles, I think, so couldn't hook up with him, but I think he had a good time when he was here in the States. It might have been interesting, and it might have been scary. Who knows? It's good to see you on here tonight, Scott. Oh, Mike Kovac is in here. Nice to see you, Mike. You've been a little shy on your videos lately, Mike. You've been busy. Hope you get back to doing more of those. Do great work. Hey, Brian. Yeah, I was sorry to hear about your dad passing. Hope you're doing all right. You'll like the... I know you're a big Battlestar fan. You'll like some of the videos that are going to be coming up here. We have, I've got a Mobius Classic Battlestar Galactica kit that I'm building for a guy, and I'm going to be doing something that I hope I can pull it off. But we're going to be doing the little, you know, sequencing lights in the landing bays. Now that's a really small model, but I think I got it worked out. I got the Paragraphics photo etch, and that already has, you know, the slots in the floor for the sequencing lights. But they're really tiny, so I'm probably not going to be able to do like every single light. You know, what I'm going to do is probably put some SMDs in there and just, you know, space them apart at a reasonable distance, and it'll give you the overall effect of that, you know, chaser effect. And then we'll put some ceiling light in it and everything. Of course, we're going to light up all the windows on the ship and the engines and everything. I would love it if they would put out a bigger scale version of that kit. I still really like the classic Battlestar. I like the new one too, but okay, I think my glue gun should be ready to go. Anybody have any questions they want to ask before we hop back over to the bench camera? Once I get on there, I really can't see what you guys are talking about. I'll just give it a second here. Yeah, I see you guys are mentioning you got some of those kits from Omar. Omar had a garage sale, and he gave everybody a great deal. I got a couple of kits from him. I got a couple of the TOS 350 kits that I needed. And thanks again for that, Omar. You're a good friend. I know you hooked up a lot of guys out there. Omar's gone almost exclusively to doing a lot of 3D printing work. He does fantastic work, by the way. Wow. Scott, you drove from New York to LA. Well, you got the whole grand tour of the United States. Did you get to see the Grand Canyon? That's probably our #1 attraction. Murphy, I'm using the craft paints. You know, I've been using those quite a bit lately. I did a couple videos showing how to work with those. I think I showed how to work with it on that deflector housing for the, you know, the big Enterprise. I just absolutely love this stuff. I mean, pretty hard to beat. It's inexpensive. You can fool around with, you know, mixing colors. It dries super quick. It dries beautifully smooth. I haven't found where it reacts with. I haven't been able to get anything to react with it yet. It's just like bulletproof. And of course, you have to seal it. You know, you have to seal it with some kind of a clear, whether you want to go with a dull or a, you know, a gloss, because it is kind of soft. But once you seal it, it's good. One of the things I want to mention about that too is, like if you're going to do this Enterprise model, or anytime you're going to use that paint and you're going to use decals, you have to clear coat it before you put the decals down, because that stuff, even if it's been dry for a couple of days, it's a water-based paint, and if you put, you know, your water on there when you're going to do your decals, it's going to stain it, and you don't want that to happen. It's always a good idea to put clear down first before you put decals down with any kind of paint. They lay down on there better. You know, a lot of you guys already know that. But so you got to seal it, and then once you do that, you're fine. You can do, you know, work with it the same way you do any other kind of paint. And I just love this stuff. I'm totally hooked on it. Yeah, and if you guys have a Hobby Lobby in your area, I mean, they have a massive selection of that paint. They have one whole aisle of it. Literally any color you can think of. They have all the metallics. They have, you know, all your base colors. They even have the color changing paints in craft paints. I used some of that on a model I did. It was a car I did. I can't remember which one it was. I used some of it on that Katinga that I did, and that stuff is great too. Like I said, I'm really pleased with it. You know, I've been using that Speed Secker for a long time, but that stuff is pretty expensive. You know, I use it still on certain occasions, but I think by another, you know, few months, I'm going to be completely switched over and using almost nothing but craft paints. You know, there's still some specialty paints you're going to need. If you're doing metallics and stuff, you know, like the chrome look and all that, they don't offer anything like that. So you're going to have to use, you know, AK or what's the other one that's really popular? You know, the chrome one. They had that whole line of paints. I've been around glue too much, guys. I'm starting to lose my memory. You guys probably know what I'm talking about, but you know, for specialty stuff like that, you're probably still going to have to, you know, use some other types of paints. But for your basic stuff, in fact, the little California Kid car I'm using craft paints on that. So away we go. Okay, guys, I don't see any more, you know, questions pressing right away, so I'm going to flip us back over to the bench camera. And let's get cracking on this thing again. Wrap this baby up. I'm going to get the control board mounted. I've got these little control boards I get from Tenacontrols. Basically all this does is run the navigation lights. So we have our two little blinkies on the bottom here, two more blinkies on the top, and then we've got the two that blink at the rear of the ship. So there's just two separate circuits here. All four of the lights on the saucers run off of one circuit. The two at the rear run off the other one, so it's really basic and simple. So I'm going to get my hot glue gun over here now and try not to burn myself and get this put down. I'll just do two corners. And hot glue is good for that because it doesn't, you know, attack anything. It won't hurt that board whatsoever, and it'll be plenty strong. It'll never go anywhere. But you just got to wait a few minutes and kind of hold on to it while it settles down. That's a good little spot to put that. It's out of the way, reaches all of our other wires. So we'll do that. Now I've also got one more thing I forgot to is I don't know if I'll bother with that tonight, but down here in the center we have that little cone that goes in there, and then there's a little hole in the top. A 5mm LED goes straight down into that, and it's on all the time. So I just run wires off of that and bring them over, you know, through this little slot or something and connect them right on over here or something, and then we've got power to that. Real simple. Okay, that looks like it's going to start holding for us. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a little slot right here. I'm going to use my grinder, and I'm going to make a little notch in this area right here so I can reach these wires with the 2 power wires that need to connect to power. And that'll just take me a second. The heavy-duty equipment. It's like that. We got a notch. Doesn't have to be pretty. I just notch it like that because when the lid comes down, I don't want that wire to get pinched. So that's just the only reason for that. Alright, so we can go ahead and run these babies up here like this. Strip these again. Get my solder iron warm back up. I guess I can get rid of my hot glue gun so it's not sitting here boiling the whole time. Don't need it anymore. Okay, so we're going to strip this other wire here and we're going to connect right to power. Black and red, real simple. Now, I had my little instruction book for this board. Of course, you always get a set of instructions whenever you order one of these boards from Ralph. But I got these in bulk from him, and I had an old instruction sheet laying around here, and I was digging for it a second ago and couldn't find it, but I think I can remember. I should know these by heart, but the main thing is we get the power wires right, we won't have any problem. But either the green wire is for the nav lights or the yellow wire is. I don't remember which, but we'll test them out and find out. No problem. The plus side of the LEDs, I'm going to be using SMDs here, so I'm going to use an 0805 standard white SMD for these little lower lights here. For the upper ones, I'll use a red and a green 0805 SMD, but we're not worried about those tonight. We're only doing the bottom. So I've got that. Now I'm going to go ahead and solder these, like I said, so I don't forget. And I think what we're going to do too is, before I go any further, I'm going to go ahead and get those little orange guys put in. Get that taken care of. Then we'll finish up with the board. Thank goodness my mic is turned on. I could have been sitting here the whole time without nothing. You guys not hearing anything. At least I remembered that. Okay. Let's get that in there. Alright, so I got these little 3mm orange standard LEDs, and I've got some 470 ohm quarter watt resistors standard for 9 volts DC. So I'm just going to mount these in here. Polar Lights was good enough to give us a nice little bracket kind of thing here to fit these in, and these little 3mm guys fit in here perfect. So I'm going to just stick it in there like that. Kind of getting it, bend these leads so it sits in there a little bit better. And as long as you keep it flush, you know, the two little edges of that LED flush and pushed up tight against that that little bracket, it will line itself up, you know, in the right spot where the actual ports are on the impulse deck when we put that on the model later on. So same thing, a little bit of CA glue, quick hit with a kicker. That one's in. Bend these out to the side a little bit. Do this again. You need glue before kicker, Boyd. Okay. Yeah, it's really getting hot out here. I'm going to have to step over there and turn that thing up a little bit more. Man, we got a heat wave. Too bad our beaches are closed. Got that? Now, as you guys know on LEDs, the leg that's longer is your plus. So I'm going to put one of these 470s on here, resistor. Just pigtail it around there a little bit, give her some solder. Same thing on the other side. The outer one's the plus. Okay, so let's see if this will be good enough to, yep, it reaches over there far enough, so I'm going to tie this into our power wire on this side. Again, I'll go back. I won't bore you guys with that, but when I'm all done with this tonight, I'm going to clean all this up. This one tied in over here. Yeah, I'm going to bend it like that. That'll work. Then we just need a little short piece of black to reach the, for our negative. Little jumper wire on each side. That'll take care of that. So let me grab that real quick. Yeah, what are we, about an hour and a half in here, guys, and we're getting pretty close to done already here. We made really good time. So like I said, you could sit down and do this in an evening. Let's get this guy kind of sitting down now where we want him to be, out of the way. Okay, we get our wire about that long. I might be able to get both of these with this little piece of wire, I think. There we go, save that one. This one I'm going to go ahead and, just for the heck of it, put a piece of shrink wrap on that one. That way we can say we used some shrink wrap. Okay, let's get that on there. Now, if you want, you can do like you can use some of those flickering LEDs in there and give you a neat little engine effect, Lots of options there. Okay, we got that secured, so let's, okay, wherever I put my lighter at. Where did I put my lighter? Put it over on the other shelf already. I'm trying to clean up. Okay. Taken care of. Get him down in there like we want him. Alright, now we just need another short section over here. So getting back to that theme again, as you can see, guys, everything on here is getting power from a separate spot. So we would have to have like a almost impossible situation happen before anything, before nothing would work. So it's something to think about. Let's use a little bit more of this stuff. want to leave those open there because we're going to be connecting more, power to that. We're going to connect our power from the lower half of the model on that, so I'm not worried about covering that up yet. Leave that alone. Alright, now we can slide this over. The reason I used heat shrink is just to basically show you how to use it if you haven't done it before. But we really didn't need to use any here. Everything's pretty much out of the way, and it's all going to get glued down, so it'll never touch anything. Okay, so we got our board hooked up. I'm going to flatten this out so it doesn't touch anything. Okay, so we got our board hooked up. We got our lights there. We'll show you how those look in just a second when I get the board going. So now what I got to do is I've got to... I don't like to use the the little plastic pieces that come with this kit. These little lenses that dropped right down in here. They're supposed to go from the inside and then stick through. What always happens to me is I never, I try masking those, and they always wind up getting some paint on them, and you gotta, scrape away at them and clean them up. So what I do now is I use some of this resin that I have. I have some clear resin that dries with UV. So I'm just going to go and make a little lens in there, just clear, flat. I'll glue my SMD to the bottom of that, or to this side of it, and then it'll be flush on the other side. And what I'll do is I'll take those little lenses and I'll just cut the very tip of them off, and I'll at the very end, just put a round mask over this, which seals it up real good. I don't have any leaks that way. And at the very end, I'll just glue that that little tip that I saved off of those lenses onto that, and then I took care of that whole problem with having any overspray or anything on them. Now up in here too, there's going to be another SMD. We're going to have one here and one here, because it does have that little light on the side that blinks. That also lights up the one on the top, the small one that's next to the big navigation lights. A lot of people say those aren't supposed to blink or even be lit, but they're there. I just think they didn't do it on the big model because they didn't have the money or whatever. I mean, to me, if they're there, they're supposed to be lit for a reason. They're actually a little light, so I go ahead and let those blink too. I think it looks pretty nice. So let me grab a couple SMDs. It's taking me a second to find them. Gotta dig through my supply here. I've got some white ones marked, hopefully. What'll probably happen is I'll have to go through the whole thing, and it'll be the last one in line. Just give me a second, everybody. Chat amongst yourselves. These are flickering. Just take a second half of the pile here. We've got plenty of them, so I know we're not out. We're just gonna find them. We need 4 of them. These are white, but they're the wrong size. These might be the ones. Here's some warm white. Warm white. We want regular white for those. Warm white. Green. I got a lot of these guys. Getting there. Let's try these right here. I'm pretty sure these might be white. They're not marked. That usually means they are standard white. Warm white. We'll find out. We'll gamble. We'll take a shot at it. And they're probably going to be red. Let me find out here really quick. Make sure we unwrap them the right way. If you don't unwrap these the right way the first time you pull them out of the bag, you're going to have a nightmare on your hands. Okay, let's find out which one is which here. Okay, we got one free. Now these are just regular 0805s with a resistor built in. They're made to operate in the same voltage range as our LED tape, so anywhere from like 7.5 up to like 15. But I run them at usually 9 or so, and that's right in their sweet spot. Let's use a little heat and get this wire bared up for us. Let's throw some juice at her and find out what happens. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Yeah, they're white, but they're warm white. Okay, so I need those anyway for something I'm working on later for the rest of this model, so I'll leave those out. Let me dig around a little bit more, guys. I'll find them. Maybe getting time to order some more. I thought I had more than that, but maybe I'm getting low. But I know I've got enough to get this done. Just gotta find them. I went through and marked all these bad boys, but I guess I didn't. I used up the ones that I did. Okay, here we go. These are actually marked. There's enough. We need 4. Now, one rule of thumb here, guys, to remember also, save yourself a whole lot of headaches, is even if you get lights and they're marked that they're a certain color, test them before you put them in your model and glue it all together and spend weeks puttying it before you find out they're not the right color. Just a friendly little tip a guy can remember. Save you a whole lot of grief. Okay, I think we've got 5 of them here, so we're good. We need 4. If I can get this to cooperate. Yeah, we already got a knot in here. Man, these things love to do that. And they're delicate, too, so you can't just go yanking on them. Yeah. It's doing this just because we're live. If we weren't live right now, it'd be no problem. Yeah, okay. Little jigsaw puzzle to figure out here, guys. There we go. We got one of them free. Free at last. Okay, but like I said, before I go any further, I'm going to test these. Just to be sure. Oop, I see a glimmer. A glimmer. Yep, we got regular white. We're in business. Okay. So, now that we've got our SMDs, I'm going to show you how I use this resin stuff. Just kill the power supply and the solder iron for a minute here. Get the old saucerini back in the picture. Need a little bit of tape. I'm just going to take a little bit of masking tape. This is the good painter's tape. Mask off the back side here. Just like that. And I'll just kind of cover up that hole, make sure it's nice and tight. We don't want that stuff leaking out of there. Okay, let's grab our resin. This is a little product called SolarRes. It's available online at www.solarres.com. You can buy this in different sizes. I believe this is the 4-ounce. It's a little on the expensive side, so you only use it for sort of like specialty things. But it's awesome stuff. I've been using it for everything from making windows to gluing in car windows. Like, you know, everybody's searching for a glue that when you build a model car that won't ruin your car windows. Well, this stuff is it, because you can get it on there as long as you don't, you know, if you stain a little bit onto your glass, it doesn't attack the plastic, so you can wipe it off. That's the beauty of this stuff. But, you know, canopy glue does the same thing, but the problem with canopy glue is that it takes forever before it sets. So if you've got a little model car, you know, we've all had those model cars where the glass just doesn't want to sit in there. It wants to pop out a little bit. Well, you can use this stuff, do a little corner or whatever, and then hit it with your, this is a UV flashlight. Ooh, look at that. It's a UV flashlight. I also have this other one here. Let me show you. I showed this a while back. I was doing that Lusitania build, and I showed this thing. It comes with this little light here, but it just doesn't cut it, guys. It's okay for, you know, doing fiddly little stuff, but if you're going to start working with this stuff, go out and buy one of these. It's not that expensive, and it just does the job 10 times better, so that stuff is no good. Okay, so we're set to go. I'm gonna tip this down. Now, it's really thick, so you have to let it kind of flow down to the tip a little bit, so I'm holding it upside down. What they recommend for this stuff, now you can do some really cool stuff with this. If you want it to be a little bit more runny, set it in a cup of hot water, and it'll get thinner. If you want to use it thicker, set it in a little cup of ice. And what you can actually do with this stuff, it's amazing. I've been able to make like little domes and stuff. I could actually make the domes that are on top of this saucer, you know, like the little navigation lights. You can make a perfectly round, beautiful, glass clear dome. I mean, the beauty of this stuff is it doesn't get any bubbles in it or anything. It pretty much eliminates that old, what do they call that stuff? The dental resin, that really stinky, horrible stuff that guys used to use for windows and stuff. This totally makes that stuff vanish into oblivion where it belongs. That stuff is totally toxic and horrible to work with. This stuff has no odor. It dries instantly. If you're careful when you apply it, you won't get any bubbles in it at all, so you can make perfectly clear windows. And it dries like resin, so it's as hard as it's as hard as concrete when it dries, and it's extremely sandable. So if you put it on something, you can sand it, and it'll feather edge and everything. It'll blend right in. It's really wonderful stuff. So let's see if we've got it to run down in here a little bit. I'm going to try it in the hole here. And it's coming out. You just want to, if you're going to fill something like this, you just let it ooze in there. Don't force it in there, because when you force it, that's when you'll get an air bubble or something. If you do get an air bubble, just take a pin and poke it, and you'll pop the air bubble, and it'll settle out. So what I'll do is I'll let that sit. Now, the beauty of this stuff is it will not dry at all unless you hit it with UV, okay? So, like, I've been using it on ship's rigging, you know, when you're fiddling around with that rigging and you're trying to, you know, we used to use CA and all kinds of other stuff, and that stuff pretty much, you better get it right the first time or it's going to grab. And especially, like, on photo etch, this stuff is superb for gluing photo etch down. Make a little puddle of it on a piece of cardboard, take a toothpick, put a little bit of it on your photo etch, and that way when you're putting photo etch stuff on, you know, you can still move it around a little bit and fiddle with it. When you get it where you want it, hit it with the UV, and in like 3 seconds it's totally dry, and it's on there strong too. I found that it really sticks good to brass and everything. So you know, even CA glue doesn't stick to brass all that great. I've had stuff where I glued down photo etch with CA glue, and a little while later it popped loose again. You know what I mean? But yeah, you're always, when you're working with photo etch, you're always like fiddling with it and trying to, especially if you're doing a ship and you're putting all them railings on and you're fiddling with it and everything. This is great. So, okay, we got our little drop there. So now I'm going to hit it about 3 inches away, pointing the UV light right at it. I'll show you how long it takes. Of course, the thicker it is, the longer it takes. Now, I didn't go very thick with this. Now, if you're going to do something on both sides, what I recommend is use like clear Scotch tape. Like if you're going to, you know, if this was going to be like a window on the other side and I wanted it perfectly flush, I'd use a piece of clear Scotch tape on that. And then I can hit it from the other side with a light. The UV goes through the tape, and it'll cure this stuff, right? And then you can pull the tape and you're perfectly fine. Okay, it's done, and it's totally cured, and it's as hard as a rock. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so we're going to move over here. Do this. Same thing again. Yeah, once you get some of this stuff and start working with it, you'll never go back, trust me. It's awesome stuff. It's a new tool that a lot of people are going to start using. Okay. Again, just give it a second to settle down, self-level and everything. checking it out. There's no air bubbles in it. So we'll hit it. Okay, that's it. Totally dry, guys. It's ready to go. So we're set with that. So I don't need that anymore. I'm going to put this away. Now we've got our SMDs. Let's see, where's that one that I had that was loose? Here it is. There it is. Okay. We're going to go back to our CA again because CA sticks to this stuff really good. I'm just going to glue this SMD face down right on top of this little dome that I just made. So I need to make a little spot here, get my kicker ready. Set that right in there. I've gotten to the point, guys, where I use SMDs and LED tape for almost everything. I don't hardly ever use regular LEDs anymore. SMDs are just so much easier to work with. They're already resistored. They'll fit into practically anywhere you can imagine. They're so tiny. They put out great light. I like the fact that they're not, they don't have like a lens on them already, so that they're going to be really narrow. They're already wide, so like you can get all the light you want, and if you want less, you just diffuse it or do whatever you want and bring that down, and you can resistor them down even more to make them dimmer if you want. They're just awesome. They still haven't quite caught on. I still see a lot of guys modeling that are not using these at all, and they're really missing out. I mean, this is the way to go. Same thing with the LED tape, and now we've got the technology is amazing. In these tiny little SMDs, there's a little control board in those things. They have flickering ones now. They have fading ones. They have pulsing ones. They have blinking ones. It's just amazing. Everything keeps getting better and better. Okay, so we got this little notch right here, so that's where the wires are going to go through. So right before that notch, I'm going to glue these down. Leave a little bit of slack. Okay, now we got to get another one loose. Oops, sorry about that, guys. Probably just blew your eardrums out right there. Knocked over the microphone. Let me get another one loose out of this mess here. Wow. These things are. It's just it's their lot in life. That's what they're meant to do, is just get tangled all up. One of them hopefully will let go here. What a mess. It's just because of the resistor being on the end there. I might have to pause and take a break here to get this untangled here, guys. I'm going to do this for an hour live. Come on. Let's see, is this one going to come off? This is really something else. Alright, I'm going to do it the hard way, guys. I'm going to actually get in here and look and see where we got a knot. There's 2 or 3 really messed up knots here that are holding the whole thing together. Crazy. Like I said, you don't want to be pulling on them or you'll yank the you'll bust the resistor off of there. Now some people are gluttons for punishment and they buy these things with no wires on them and they solder them themselves, and boy, kudos to you, man. I mean, these are microscopic. I don't think I could even think about trying to solder wire. I'm pretty good at soldering, but I ain't that good. This is the culprit right here. It's a bad knot. It's like all crammed together. Guys can probably take another pee break if it's if it's a good time, because this is going to be a minute here. What in the world? Like I said, if this was me on the bench by myself, it would have been no problem. But oh, you got a live audience? Oh, let me see what I can do to. Golly, man, this just does not want to cooperate. I think this is about the worst knot I've ever seen these things get into. And of course, it's the one that we need. All right, come out of there. Just give me one. I'll settle for one right now. There we go. Got one to pop. All right. Okay, so this one's going to go... Oop, I'm going to move that, guys. Hopefully you can still hear me. I keep banging into that. All right. This one's going to go right up in here. And that's going to be our little side light on the side of the saucer. I'm just going to put a little CA in there. And when you do that, you want to make sure, something I found out the hard way one time too, you want to make sure that you put it in below the edge of this lip right here. Otherwise, guess what? When you try to put the saucer down, you're going to have a big old bump right there. And if you force it too much, you'll break and smash that that SMD inside there, and then the day just officially got really, really bad. Okay, so that one's in. Now, what I'll do is from the outside now, I'm going to use a little bit more of that resin. I'll put it in that hole on the outside, and I'll let it build a little high, and then what I'll do is when I'm doing the natural sanding around here, I'm doing, sanding the seam work down here, it'll sand that down where it's flush, and we'll have a nice flush round circle there that's a clear lens, so I can put a mask over it, a little round mask, and paint it, and when it's done I'll have a nice little perfectly done little blinky winky sitting right there. So that works out pretty good. Alright, we're getting kind of long, guys. It's going to be 2 hours, so I'm going to show you just this one side here, the basic control board and everything, and we'll finish up a little bit here, hop on the chat here at the end and see what's going on, and then we'll call this night a wrap. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really had fun being back. It's nice to have some company. And we'll be back again next week. I'm going to try to do these every week. The old show I started having to go bi-weekly and all that because, like I said, it got harder and harder for me to write the script and buy model kits to do reviews and make sure I had something interesting for you guys. But you never know what you might see. Now, you definitely probably won't see this next week. I may pull a kit off the shelf and start working on it. You never know. I'm going to kind of keep it fun like that, where you guys, you might see a whole project all the way through here, but and don't worry, I'm going to make regular videos. Anything I do here, now this is a client build, so I don't usually show those. You guys have seen, me build this thing. At some point in the future, though, I am going to do a whole brand new build series on a TOS 1350 using all my latest stuff, because I continue to get a lot of requests for that. So somebody can have that and they can follow it step by step. And this fall, I'm looking at building another 1350 refit, because I never really built myself a really good refit. And so I'm going to build another 350 refit using all of my latest, things that I've learned. And there's a whole ton of new products out there for that kit since the last time I built one. There's wonderful resin parts. There's a lot more photo etch. The whole green strawberry set's out there that wasn't out there before. There's better paint masks. I mean, all kinds of stuff. So I will do a whole brand new updated series on that, and those will be like regular videos that I'll post on the channel. And anytime I do a model, you'll still see that whole thing on the channel. But here on this show, I'm just sitting down on the bench and grabbing whatever I feel like that night, and hope that you guys will enjoy it. If not, hopefully you'll enjoy the chat, and we'll just go from there. That's the beauty of this whole thing. I'll try to surprise you guys once in a while. I do have a couple of really cool props. I have a full-scale Star Trek TOS phaser rifle kit that was done by this guy that he retired now, and I think I got one of his last ones, but he does a fantastic job on those, and I've had that for like 2 years. I want to build that. That might be something you guys will see here, little glimpses of that. I've got Ralph actually working on a board for that right now, so that'll be really fun. That's something I've always wanted to have. We only saw that in I think what you guys might know, but I think it only appeared in 2 episodes on the entire show. I know it was in the one with Gary Mitchell, and then I'm trying to think what other time they may have showed it, but they didn't show it very much. But it was really, really cool, and it looked very 60s and all that. That's what I like about it. Okay, so we've got these two in there. I'm gonna bare this wire here, and so now we're gonna throw a little bit to the board here and make sure these guys work. So the way this board's set up is that the plus side on your lights connect to the plus side power coming in to the board. So that's really straightforward. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing I did before. I'm going to bare a spot in the wire right here. And we're going to take these two plus guys, which we know are the plus because they've got the resistor on that side. Go ahead and hook those up. Now we know that that's right, okay, because there's no way to get that part wrong. So I'm not going to solder that just yet, but don't let me forget, guys. I need to remember that at the end here. So now we got our two negatives, and this wire you can't strip with your fingernails because it's just too thin, so I just burn this stuff off. Okay, got both these guys ready, and they will fight you. They will fight you. They just don't want to cooperate, but we'll get them. I'm going to twist these two together. And now, this is the part I can't remember, but it won't matter. It's going to be either this yellow one or it's going to be the green. And let me see if I can guess. I'm going to say it's the green. So the negative wire from the lights hooks up to the green. Again, we won't solder it yet, just to be sure. Okay, just kind of make sure it's not going to touch anything funky. Now we'll throw some juice at her again. Pick up my power over here. Hey, I guessed right, guys. Let me turn this overhead light off. You can see we got our two little blinky winkies there. There's the one on the outside, and oh, I guess I gotta pull that tape off there. Can't see that. There's the one on the bottom. I need to hit that with that UV. It didn't quite cure all the way through. That's what I was talking about using the Scotch tape. See, if you use the regular masking tape like this, I wasn't able to penetrate that, but if I had used Scotch tape there, I could shine my light right through it and it would have been cured completely on both sides. I made it a little bit too thick. That's what the problem was. That'll take care of that. Okay, so that's done. So we got our blinky winky. We got our impulse engines back here. We got all of our other lights working. So we did a great job, guys. Thanks for helping me. I really appreciate it. Hanging out with me and passing the time. So that's as far as I'm going to go on camera tonight with this, guys. The rest is just kind of repeating everything. I hope it helps you guys out there that are building one of these. But this same technique or method works on lots of different kinds of models. Hope you can use it. And that's what we're here for. We're here to help other people out. So I'm going to take another really quick break, guys. I've got to make another pit stop. And then when I come back, we'll wrap things up. Spend 15-20 minutes hanging out on the chat. See what's going on, and we'll close it down for tonight. I'll be right back, everybody. Okay, guys, I'm back with you again. I'll hop over to the back end of the feed here so I can see the chat. And had a lot of fun, guys. I hope you enjoyed that little wiring session there. Got something I wanted to show you really quick, too, before we close out tonight. This is the... let me put this together really quick just to mock it up. This is my... California kit I'm working on. This is a little kit. Now this is a little guy. It's a 1/25th scale, but it's working out really good so far. People were saying that it had a horrible body, this particular kit, but I don't think it looks too bad at all. I really like the, if you guys can see that, the custom louvers there on the back deck. The only thing that I could find wrong with the kit that really doesn't look right was the side panels up here, you know, on the sides of the engine. The car in the movie had custom louvers, like 3 rows of them, where this has just got like the stock, you know, cut louvers in the side. I'm not going to worry about that. It does have the nice ones on the deck lid. It's got the ones on the hood. But everything's working out pretty good. I got the right wheels for it. This kit comes with a small block Ford, which is weird because if you're into these kind of cars, you know that back in the day, almost all these had a small block Chevy put in them. The reason why is because the sump, you know, the deep part of the oil pan, it's in the wrong spot and it wouldn't clear the cross member. You know, on a Ford it's in the front, and on a Chevy it's in the back. So they always had to modify the block or whatever, you know, the oil pickup and everything, if they wanted to use a Ford engine, which is kind of odd. You know, you want to use a Ford engine in a Ford car. That's why most of these old hot rods had small block Chevys in them. You know, in the early days they were using the old flathead Ford, but when they started getting more modern, almost all of them were going with small block Chevy. So I'm pretty sure this car had a small block Chevy in it, you know, the movie car. So I'm going to use an engine out of a different kit. So I may have to do a little finagling around. I don't know what kind of an intake it had on it. I don't know if there's a spot in the movie where it actually shows the intake on the car in the movie. If it doesn't, there's a 3-deuce setup that I have. I'll probably use that because it looks really cool. And I might use it anyway, even if I, you know, maybe I won't like the one that's in the movie car, but I'm going to try to make the outside of it look pretty much like it. But so far, so good. I'm really happy with how it's going together. I think the body looks pretty good. I'll show you one more quick thing for that. This was kind of the heart of the whole project. You know, the kit's pretty well readily available. It's that kit behind me. You see the 34 Ford with the flames on it, but the flames on that kit are horrible. They look like cartoon flames. They're not right. Well, there's a guy years ago that made these decals specifically for the 1/25th scale 34 Ford, and these are the actual California Kid style flames. They have the white around the edges. It actually has the license plate for the car. It has little decals for the gauges, and it's got the California Kid in print, you know, in that same kind of font that it was on the car that goes, you know, right here below the window opening on the door. So I had been trying to get these for a long time, and they would pop up every once in a while on eBay, and I would always miss out on them or whatever. So I finally got a set, so I figured it was time to finally pull the trigger on this project. I've wanted to do this car for a long time. So you guys should see a regular video on that coming out maybe tomorrow or maybe by Monday, but I'm shooting the video right now of the work I'm doing on it, and you'll see the whole build series on the regular channel. So there's that, just a little sneak peek at that. So it looks like some people are starting to say goodnight, so we'll kind of hop around here one more time and give a chance to anybody has any questions they want to ask. Looks like we had a nice turnout tonight. I really appreciate you guys showing up. I'm just rolling back here a little bit, see if I missed anything. Some of you guys are asking about the SolarRes. It's just www.solarres.com. SolarRes is spelled SOLAREZ.com. And you'll see, now the stuff that I'm using is called the hard finish doming type. You'll see that they have several different kinds, but this stuff is kind kind of good for, like, you know, they have specialty applications, but this stuff seems to work good for a lot of different stuff. And you know, it's not exactly cheap, but you know, you use it sparingly. I've been working on that bottle for a long time, and I bought another bottle of it for a, you know, refill, so I'm good to go. But you know, it's worth every penny to me. I really love this stuff. If you're going to be doing windows and everything, some of you guys, like I said, if you've ever worked with that dental acrylic stuff, oh my gosh, man, that stuff will blow you away. That's the most toxic stuff I've ever seen. Yeah, Star Siege, this stuff is like clear as glass. It's absolutely perfectly clear. It's beautiful. Ah, Zeno Blevins says he lives in San Antonio too. Hey, fellow San Antonian. Great city to live in. I wouldn't trade this city for anything else. I love living here. I've been here 30 years now. Blinky Winky. Crazy Cougar's asking, in the future, can I show how I build the stand? Yeah, I'll probably cover that. If you go back and look, you know, I have like 600 videos on my YouTube channel, and I'm sure at some point in there, on several times, I showed the stands and how I do them. In fact, recently I did one where I was showing the what was it I was doing? Trying to remember now. But you know, there's different ways. It depends on whether the model itself is set up to have a pole in it, or whether it didn't come with anything at all, and you got to do some modifications. SCO Mike, I get all of my stuff at HDA Model Works. It's www.hdAmodelworks.com. Yeah, I've been following your updates, Armando. Awesome job on the Bird of Prey. That work you did to bring up the detail on the main guns is awesome. That's like a must-have on that kit. It really makes a difference. Anybody else have anything they need to answer for? If not me, maybe somebody else in here can help you out. Oh yeah, Sean's asking about videos using craft paints. You're going to see a lot of that, Sean, because that's pretty much all I'm going to be using going forward. I just demonstrated that. If you go back, a week or two ago, I was on the 72-inch Enterprise update where I painted that. I painted the deflector housing. I went into a lot of detail about using that craft paint. You'll pretty much find out everything you want to know about it on that one video. I showed how I spray it, how I thin it, how I use a little bit of forced drying on it, how I seal it with clear, the whole 9 yards. That'd probably be a pretty good example. But you're going to see a lot of that going forward because I'm going to be using it pretty much all the time. In fact, on this car I'm doing right now, I'm going to be using it. I'll be clear coating, of course, but the base colors are all going to be... Patrick is asking about the kicker. It's just Accelerator Instaset. Now, this is an aerosol can. As I said, when this runs out, they sell it in a regular bottle, and you can buy a small little pump spray bottle. I think I'm going to start using that because I think you can control it a little bit better. But this is readily available. I buy most of my modeling supplies online at Hobby Link USA, and they have that there. They have the CA glue, they have this, they have everything you need there. Really good prices too. I always get my stuff within a few days. Well, hello there, Adam. Good to see you, buddy. How's things over there in East Texas? Turns out I have some relatives that live really close to Adam. Well, Thanks, Mark. You've been around a long time then. The Project 350 was like almost 7 years ago now. That's hard to believe. So I say that very first refit you saw me build was the one that I have. The other two that I built after that were both went to clients, and I've learned a lot about painting, and plus my refit had a little bit of an accident. Something fell on it. It's the only model that I've ever had get damaged, but something fell on it and put a big old divot right in the middle of the saucer, like right where it says NCC 1701 on the top. And I got it sitting high on my shelf so you can't notice it, but I know it's there. So it gives me a reason to build a whole new model, and so I want to do that. So look for that towards the fall. I've got a refit sitting here. I've got 3 or 4 of those kits, and I got all the bells and whistles. Jerry has sent me a bunch of photo etch for it, and I've got the updated resin parts for the bridge and the lower sensor array, a whole bunch of stuff. So that'll be a fun one to work on. All right, you guys. Well, I think that's going to be a wrap for tonight. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with us. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next week, same time, same channel. Maybe working on, who knows? We'll just keep it up to, we'll keep that a secret, and it'll be a little bit of a surprise, so that'll maybe make it a little bit more fun. So you guys take care out there. Be safe. Hopefully everything starts clearing up in your area pretty soon. We're starting to see a little bit of things open up here in Texas. Hope you guys are the same. Be safe, and as usual, happy modeling, everyone. Good night, you guys.